Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brian with the Wholesaling Playbook, and today I am going to bring you a property that I first got under contract in a case study. As you can see here, it's not the first property that I actually sold, but it is a good deal to look at and to kind of show you what goes on in a project when you get a house under contract and you get it to the table to close and make some money on your first deal. So, without further ado, let's jump into this case study. All right, so let's talk about finding the property. So for this one here, I actually got this property by buying a absentee owners list from listsource.com. And I do have a video that I can link to you guys with that'll actually show you the process that I went through to go and find the list, download it, purchase it, and then so that way, what I'm saying, you guys can get that A to Z on that part of it, so you don't have to worry about that. Next up, what I did was I took that list that I bought after I went through, cleaned it up a little bit because I didn't remove duplicates, which I highly recommend you do in ListSource. And then I sent that over to Click to Mail, uploaded it, tell it where I want it sent to, and I actually designed the postcard in Photoshop. Went through that with ListSource, put the list on Click to Mail, sent out the postcard, and pretty much just waited on the phone to ring. So I got a call from a seller, and once I actually received that call, I actually had it go straight into voicemail using my CallRail system that I'm paying for right now. I highly recommend CallRail. This is not a paid advertisement for CallRail, but you do get 10 phone numbers with them that you can use in your buying system. If you don't have the money for it, get Google Voice, send a call straight to voicemail, and then give them a call back. So once I actually got in touch with the seller, I used my property lead sheet here to gather information on the property, check out his motivation level for him wanting to sell this property, and also schedule an appointment to go out and see the property, so that way, I can see how what he told me over the phone was actually true when I actually got to the property to take a look at it. So between the time that I talked to him and set up the appointment to go see the house, I did my own due diligence on this property. And by that, what I did was I ran comps. And these comps were used to determine the ARV, or after repair value, of the property that I was going to go look at. So there are different ways to get these comps. The first way you can get them is the MLS. And you either need to be a realtor or you're going to need a realtor to get access to properties on the MLS that have sold. Now, these properties that you're going to be looking for have sold within the last 6 months. They're up to 1 mile from your subject property, similar bed, similar bath, similar square foot. You don't want to do that project where it's like, okay, you got a 900 square foot house, but you're kind of looking at a 1,500 or 16 square foot house to do a comp. So for me, I wasn't a realtor at the time, so I didn't have access to the MLS when I was comping this property. So what did I do? I had to find a different way to comp the property, which these services are all over the internet, and it's not hard to find. What you do want to do is make sure that you are looking at sold comparables when you're going through here. So I'm just going to list out a couple of services. I didn't use all these on this list. I used a couple others as well. But you got Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, ePraisal.com. These are all pretty good sites to finding comps for the subject property. Like I said, I used a couple of these here and some more others that aren't listed here. So after I did all that, found what the after repair value was on the house, it was time for me to go visit the property. So this is where I went through and took pictures of the property, got notes on the property, Um, Build more rapport with the seller is an excellent thing to do if once the seller is there with you on site going through it. Because I mean, the pictures are going to tell you a story. You taking notes just to walking around is going to tell you a story. But the seller is going to tell you the real story of the property. This is where I learned a lot of stuff about this property that I never would have found out through pictures alone. And that kind of aided me as well in comping this house out in repair values. So ask those additional questions when you are with the seller at the property. So I actually didn't make an offer on this house while I was there. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but you know, this is being my first deal. I didn't know. I just took a look at it and went back home, ran through the pictures again, estimated out the costs, my comps again, you know, just to make sure, okay, like what I seen was still good and valid based off of that. My repairs, of course, these repairs are estimates. So quick pro tip, do not spend much time on estimating repairs. I mean, you're not a contractor. You're just trying to get a ballpark number to say, okay, this is what I think the repairs are. And if you have a repair sheet with you that kind of has just random ballpark numbers on it, that's a great tool to use when going through the house and helps you with the repair costs. So now that I did this, I came up with a number, and actually me and the seller agreed on this number, and that number was $28,000. The seller wanted a little bit more than $28,000, but based off of what I had saw, I think $28,000 was a fair price. And my fee in this whole thing, I was trying to make $4,000, period. I was looking at making more, but I know that, you know, buyers want a little meat on the bone when it comes time to them looking at the house and them having to actually repair the house. You know, you want to make sure that, you know, your buyers are making money as well, and you're not taking all the money, and especially on a house that you know it's not really the margins aren't huge, and the margins weren't really huge on this house, but it was been a great rental price or a rental house. So my next step in this was to go out and market for buyers. And this is actually where the fun begins for me, is getting the buyers on board to buy a house. I set a price of $32,000 for this house, which was an excellent price on this house. It left some money in my pocket, of course, and it would have left a lot of money on the table for the buyer after they got done doing the repairs on the house as well. So this particular buyer, he was actually going to use it as a rental, as his first rental, and he would have made a lot of money every single month. So what I did was I put the house out on Craigslist. It's free. There's a lot of potential buyers that use Craigslist on a daily basis searching for discounted properties. The second thing I did was I put the house on my house buying website. And the reason why I did this is because I wanted a place online that buyers could go to, and I already put the website link on Craigslist as well to direct them back to my house buying website, and it also helped me build up my buyers list. The third thing that I did was put the house on Facebook. It's Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. Buyers are on Facebook. Sellers are on Facebook. And Facebook is free. Free. You're already on it anyway. You might as well post up your properties there. And that's what I did. The last thing I did was email some cash buyers. I had already been working on building a buyers list up before I even got my first property under contract. So just a small amount of number that I had, I just sent them out the house on email. So I found a buyer that was interested in the property. He came through, looked at the house, he liked the house, and what we did was we signed the contract. And that contract was signed at $32,000. And after I got the contract signed, I took my contract and the seller's contract along with a $2,000 earnest money deposit because it's time for me to get paid, and that $2,000 was my guaranteed payment. And I took all of that to the title company. And I would suggest when you get an earnest money deposit, don't get an earnest money deposit for less than $2,000. I know sometimes it's just not ideal, and you got to take what you get. I mean, you know what I'm saying, not every deal is a home run. But, I mean, for the most part, 9 times out of 10, no less than $2,000 on that earnest money deposit. So I got $2,000, took all that to the title company. It's time to do that title search. So the title company, they handle everything behind the scenes for you. It was a smooth process. I love my title company. I use them for every deal that I have ever done. So title company, they're doing all their work. Then I get a phone call, and we got problems, big problems. Probate issues propped up on the property. Some stuff wasn't done after the seller's his dad passed away, and some stuff just wasn't handled right on the back end. So of course, that messed me all up. Profits gone, earnest money back to the seller because it wasn't the seller, or I'm sorry, earnest money back to the buyer because it wasn't his fault that the property was not exchanging hands. So what did I have to do? Back to the drawing board. I stayed following up with the seller for a few months after this deal fell through, but it just didn't seem like he was motivated after that to push the property. And so I kind of really forgot about it because I had other deals coming through at the time and I was focused on those. So after a year had passed since that original closing date or supposed closing date on this deal, I get a phone call from the seller and he let me know that the process was cleared with probate. 365 days later, I get that phone call. The property is clear. He is ready to sell it, and that is where having that rapport with the seller comes in handy, because I could have been like, forget it, I'm walking away from it, and I'm never going to talk to this guy again. His property will never sell. Whatever he does with it is what he does with it. But because I followed up with him a few times, he didn't really forget about me, and he called me back and let me know that his issues were cleared. So we kind of looked back and forth on the price again, and we came up with adjusted price of $20,000. So that's already $8,000 less than when I had originally signed the deal for a year earlier. $8,000 off the property. That is huge. So went back through, remarketed the property to the exact same channels: Craigslist, house buying website, Facebook, emailed my cash buyers, and at this time my cash buyers list is a lot bigger. So I actually found a new buyer for the property in a couple days of just sending it out. And I don't really remember which one of my channels it came through, but he found me quickly. He had a real estate agent at the time, and his agent actually found the house, but he said that he didn't want to go through his agent to buy the house, which is great for me because that means I don't have to pay a small commission to an agent for coming in and helping close the deal. I get to keep all the money myself. So got the buyer to the house. He looked at it. He was a contractor who was also looking to add to his rental portfolio. He knew the neighborhood, which was great, and we decided to put a deal together. So finally closing. Thank you, Jesus. We are going to closing. So what did the buyer pay? $24,000 for this property plus closing costs. That is huge. I didn't have to split the closing costs with him. He was like, I'll take care of the closing costs, which is what we all want when we do a deal, is for the buyer to pay all the closing costs. That way the seller gets all their money and you get all of your money. So once again, $2,000 earnest money deposit secured. Contracts to the title company closed in 7 days. Boom! It's payday. $4,000 in my pocket. I am happy. So to recap this quick case study, contract to the seller, the new seller, for $20,000. Remember, that's an $8,000 discount from a year earlier. Put the house out at $24,000. Got a buyer at $24,000 plus closing costs. Earnest money deposit of $2,000. Take the seller contract, the buyer contract, and the earnest money deposit to the title company, and this one closed quickly because all the work had already been done a year earlier. Nothing changed. The buyer or the seller had already kept up on the tax payments, so we didn't have to worry about that. So that was all taken care of, and I walked away with $4,000. Not bad. Now, not great. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I had to wait a year to make that $4,000, but the seller still sold his house. He was still happy because he still made money on the deal. Now, keep in mind, through this entire process that I outlined here, you see I did not spend a dime out of my own pocket. A dime. So stay persistent on your deals. I mean, not every deal is like this. I mean, I have deals, a lot of deals that just run a lot smoother than this. This was just crazy to me. My mentor was like, this is a crazy deal. And, you know, everything is good now. So if you want to get started flipping houses with no money down, no money out of your own pocket, none of your own credit, go to wholesalingplaybook.com and get started today. I'll check you guys later. Peace.